Allies are not being taken down off the air. Ours are. If we don't all pull back and see this for what it is, we will wake up and there will be a day where our democracy is gone. And so I want to talk to my colleagues today about the totality of this plan. And it really happens in 5 steps. The first step is to convert the justice system into a political witch hunt operation. Every totalitarian relies on the justice system to punish dissent, but also to immunize illegality for loyalists. That's the deal you get in a totalitarian state. If you speak out against the government, well, then the legal system comes crashing down on you. But if you are loyal to the government, then you can get away with crimes. We are seeing this at scale right now. The indictment of James Comey for no crime. Not a single prosecutor in that office in Virginia would sign the indictment. Not a single one, until President Trump sent his personal lawyer to take over that office, because only she would sign the indictment. We see this in the arrests that are being readied for at least one Democratic senator, for the Soros family, for the Attorney General of New York, for behavior that is not criminal, for behavior that apparently, reportedly, has been engaged in by plenty of other people. But you also see it in the way that it ultimately plays out in a very quiet way. The goal here is not to arrest everybody that opposes Donald Trump. The idea here is to just put enough fear into the ranks of those who might speak truth to power that they stay quiet. And it's undoubtedly happening. There are undoubtedly people in this country who see what is being threatened to Senator Schiff, what has happened to James Comey, and they have just decided to remain silent. This is a tried and true tactic of a totalitarian state, is that they threaten people with arrest if they speak up, and lots of people just decide not to speak up in the first place. But what also happens is that if you are loyal to the regime, you get away with crimes. See what happened to the mayor of New York, Eric Adams. He allegedly had committed a crime. He had committed significant corruption, but was exonerated by President Trump only after the mayor pledged his political loyalty to the president. In fact, one of the president's representatives and the mayor went on television to essentially publicly do the handshake. Loyalty from the mayor to the president, and exoneration of corruption from the government to the mayor. This is how totalitarian regimes control speech. They punish through the legal system dissent. They immunize corruption amongst those who are loyal. The second part of the plan is to eliminate free press and replace it with state-run media. Now, I don't know that I'd go so far to say that we have state-run media in the United States yet, but there is an attempt underway to try to use the vast regulatory powers of the administration to censor media. And again, the administration isn't hiding it. They are going on TV and celebrating the fact that in the latest instance, they threatened to pull the licenses of TV stations that didn't take off the air one of the president's loudest critics. But we also see it through the consolidation of media into the hands of allies of the president. One family that has just taken control of a major media group that owns, amongst other properties, CBS, is looking to also take control of CNN and may have an ownership stake and a control stake in TikTok. That family has shown a willingness to censor content, pulling Stephen Colbert off the air, and to put in place essentially Trump-approved censors for their future news content. So you get to state-run media not necessarily through the state owning and operating media, but by the state using its regulatory powers, its control of licenses and mergers, to make clear to the billionaire class that they can own media, that they can make a lot of money off of media, but only if it propagates Trump's narrative and suppresses criticism. It's happening right now. We're watching it happen. The third step in the plan is to militarize law enforcement. The deployment of the military to Chicago and to Portland, to Los Angeles, is illegal. It is illegal. But it is designed to try to, once again, quell dissent and protest. This isn't about public safety. This is about political intimidation. And you're just naive if you think that folks aren't going to be a little bit less interested in showing up at a protest if they're worried about getting roughed up by law enforcement. You are naive to think that there isn't an impact on speech when the military is patrolling your streets. The signal that is being sent is that if you speak up in opposition to this president, you are going to be greeted by troop deployments and tear gas and military helicopters. The fourth step in this plan is seizing control of government spending and taxation. And here is where I fail to understand why there isn't bipartisan agreement, why we don't join hands. Our founding fathers saw what the British king did, using taxation and spending in order to compel loyalty to the crown, in order to punish the colonists when they rose up in defense of their rights. And so when they wrote the Constitution, they deliberately put the spending and taxation powers not in the hands of the executive, but in the hands of Congress, where every faction is represented. Thus, this body is in a position to broadly protect the rights of all people. Trump is seizing spending power from us, canceling grants unilaterally, most recently, brazenly deciding to refuse to spend money only in the states represented by Democrats. The day after the shutdown began, they announced that they were first suspending billions of dollars worth of projects in just one city, New York City, not coincidentally represented by the Democratic leader in the House and the Senate. And then hours after, they released a list of canceled energy projects. They listed the states that they were being canceled, and every single one of those states was represented by 2 Democratic senators. Everybody knew what was happening. It was an effort to use the spending power seized by the executive to punish representatives of the people who oppose the president politically. And then the fifth part of the plan is to rig the rules when the rules don't work for you. This is happening in the way that President Trump is going state by state and demanding that congressional lines be redrawn in the middle of a 10-year cycle in which traditionally we leave lines as they are. Why? He's, again, been totally honest and transparent about it. He just wants more Republicans elected. Even if the majority of people in a particular state favor Democrats, he wants the lines drawn in a way that would elect more Republicans to Congress. Now, in this case, it's of course forced Democratic states to do the same, but it was Donald Trump that started this cycle of changing the rules in order to make sure that his party stays in power, that he stays in power no matter how unpopular he gets. You see the same thing happening with respect to the control of information. Totalitarian states, they can't accept truth. They can't accept truth, so they try to destroy truth. Well, that's what Donald Trump is doing by banning reporters from the White House that don't toe the Trump or MAGA line. That's what they're doing in saying to reporters at the Department of Defense, you can't report on military operations unless you are given pre-approval. That's what happened to the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. When the labor statistics showed that the economy wasn't good, that guy got fired and replaced by somebody who would issue fake numbers that made the economy look better. You convert the justice system so that it pursues your political enemies and exonerates your political loyalists for crimes. You eliminate the free press and you replace it with a state-run or state-influenced media. You militarize law enforcement. You seize control of government spending and taxation. You rig the rules of democracy in your favor. You can't see the indictment of Comey, the cancellation of Kimmel, the troops in Chicago as different events. They are all part of the same story. They are all part of a plan, a well-thought-out plan to try to destroy American democracy and create a new set of rules that will allow Trump and his allies to rule forever. I know this sounds extreme. It is. But if you connect the dots, if you allow yourself to see the whole story, the totality of this story, you will see the grave danger that we are in. I know that it's often easiest for all of us, but probably especially for supporters of the president who still support democracy, to just assume the best instead of assuming the worst, or to just kind of close the door and batten down the hatches until the storm leaves town. But think about how we will feel if this 250-year democratic experiment disappears on our watch, and we didn't do all we could as a body and as a citizenry, simply because we didn't want to face the hard reality. The authoritarian takeover isn't coming. It's here. We're in the middle of it. But it is not too late for everybody to see it and for us to stop it. I yield the floor.
So AI is transforming customer service. That's obvious. We know that. The leader in the category is Fin. That's our product.
President,
The Democratic whip.
are we in a quorum call?
We are not.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, today, for the first time since her confirmation earlier this year, Attorney General Pam Bondi appeared before the Senate Judiciary Committee to answer for her tenure in the office of the Attorney General for this calendar year. From the outset, the Attorney General was not apparently happy to be there. She ducked many questions, and I think she believed we wouldn't notice. We did. In her opening statement, the Attorney General said, quote, that playing politics with law enforcement powers, as she claims previous administrations have, will go down as a historic betrayal of public trust. And that, quote, this is the kind of conduct that shatters the American people's faith in our law enforcement system. That's interesting coming from an Attorney General who, over the course of 8 very long months, has presided over exactly such a betrayal of public trust. The Attorney General has systematically weaponized the Department of Justice, turning it into a shield to protect President Trump and his allies and a sword to attack his opponents. She has made clear that her loyalties lie first and foremost with the President, not with the Constitution. And in doing so, she effectively has shut down justice at the Department of Justice even before the party controlling the White House, Senate, and House of Representatives shut down the government. Last week on the Senate floor and in the wake of the federal indictment against former FBI Director James Comey that was ordered by President Trump expressly, I warned of the dangers posed by weaponizing the Justice Department in a political fashion. A president enabled by people like this Attorney General, who can warp the Department of Justice and FBI into a personal police force to target his enemies, can turn it against ordinary Americans too. And unfortunately, the city of Chicago, which I'm proud to represent, is feeling that today. In an especially egregious instance in the city's South Shore neighborhood last Tuesday night, hundreds of armed federal agents rappelled from Black Hawk helicopters and swarmed an apartment building in the South Shore area. This made-for-movies entrance was into a building which apparently the ICE agents knew little about the occupants. ICE rampaged through the building, breaking down doors, rousting people out of bed, rounding up the residents without cause, detaining many with zip ties, including women and children. When one of the ICE agents was confronted with the children, he said, "F them kids." Detaining not just immigrants, but U.S. citizens for hours on end with no justification isn't fighting crime. It's cruel and it's un-American. Attorney General Bondi's Justice Department has defended this dubious legal basis for federal deployments in Illinois and diverted Department of Justice personnel and their components to assist with these efforts. So today, many of us pushed her for answers. I asked her if anyone at the White House consulted her about the National Guard deployments to Chicago and other cities. She refused to answer that she'd even had a conversation with the White House about their justification for sending hundreds of National Guard troops into the city of Chicago. I asked what secret the Attorney General was trying to hide from the American people, who deserve to know the legitimate, legal rationale deploying American military to our cities. She responded by attempting to blame Democrats for the Republican shutdown and attacking me for not loving Chicago as much as I hate President Trump. That was a quote. I've been a member of the Judiciary Committee for 20 years plus. Never have I encountered a witness from any other administration of either political party responding to legitimate questions with personal attacks. She had a personal attack crafted for each one of the senators and thought she was getting the best of us. But that kind of unserious response is what we've come to expect from Trump administration officials, whose priority is loyalty, not the rule of law. If DOJ is serious about reducing crimes, they would work in conjunction with state and local leaders to implement evidence-based policies that do drive down violence. But the fact is that this administration actually cares more about spreading fear into the hearts of our communities and catering to the vengeful whims of President Trump and Steve Miller. It's political theater with an immense human price tag. I also asked the Attorney General about the Epstein client list she wouldn't touch it. She said in February publicly that the client list was, quote, sitting on her desk. Well, it's October, and the American people are still waiting for answers on this. She refused today to provide any information about this list. And we know why. A few months ago, a credible whistleblower told my office that FBI agents were instructed to flag any mention of President Trump in the files for Mr. Epstein. If true, that's not law enforcement, that's political protection. So I pressed her again today for more information to be made public. She refused. Mr. President, what we saw in today's hearing was an Attorney General unwilling, maybe unable, to defend what has happened in her department. Whether it's the Epstein files, Chicago immigration raids, sweetheart deals for Trump allies, or the mass purging of career law enforcement, her silence tells a story. Saying, quote, I'm not going to discuss this with you, may have worked today, but one day she'll need to answer for her conduct in this role, and she'll need to defend her record, one that saw the dismantling of the Department of Justice for political purposes on her watch. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Mr. President,
The senator from Utah.
Mr. President, the story of America is the story of a people who looked upon the West and saw promise. Where others saw wilderness, Americans saw a future. They dammed rivers that had flowed ungoverned since creation, mined mountains that had defied the reach of man, and turned harsh plains into fields that would feed a continent. From that audacity came a republic that could feed itself, power itself, and then, when tested, defend itself. The Federal Land Policy and Management Act, known commonly as FLPMA, enshrined this principle of multiple use and sustained yield for federal lands. It codified the promise that the land belongs to the people and ought, therefore, to serve them. Its promise was plural: energy, grazing, recreation, timber, conservation, each coexisting with the others in balanced and productive harmony. The law does not permit federal officials to choose one purpose to the exclusion of all the rest. It demands balance, and it demands use in particular. But the Biden administration's clerics of the Green New scam disregarded that agreement, struck nearly a half-century ago. They preferred a museum to a nation, an America under glass, admired but untouchable. Under their edicts, vast stretches of land, millions upon millions of acres, have been sealed off from the citizens who built their livelihoods upon them. In Montana, North Dakota, and Alaska, communities that have mined, grazed, and worked for generations are now treated as trespassers in their own story. Their supposed crime is self-reliance, hardly something we should be seeking to punish. Their punishment is unemployment. The Senate now faces 3 resolutions that would help restore the balance. Each disapproves of a Biden administration decision that violated the multiple-use mandate of FLPMA and locked away public land from productive Americans, contrary to FLPMA's promise. In Montana, for example, the Miles City Resource Management Plan barred future coal leasing across nearly 2 million acres, erasing access to 338 million tons of clean domestic coal. In North Dakota, more than 4 million acres of federal coal reserves were closed, nearly 99% of the reserves available in that state. And in Alaska, the Central Yukon Resource Management Plan imposed new restrictions on 56 million acres of land, including millions of acres newly labeled as quote-unquote areas of critical environmental concern. One of the great trick plays used by the left in order to bring about de facto wilderness or de facto monument designations without actually having to go through the process that the relevant laws would require. Joe Biden's bureaucrats rode over the voices of those who actually live near that land and live with the consequences of these bad decisions. And the results were predictable: higher costs, lost jobs, and deeper dependence on nations that, to put it mildly, do not wish us well. Every shuttered mine, every idled rig is an act of self-imposed amnesia, a willful type of forgetting of what made America both prosperous and free. Now, luckily, President Trump and Secretary Burgum are correcting that course. They're returning resource management plans to their proper role under the law. That is, to manage the land responsibly and keep it working for the American people, the intended beneficiaries of those lands. The Congressional Review Act allows us, mercifully, to repeal these unlawful plans and restore the statutory balance Congress intended and Congress, in fact, created with the Congressional Review Act. When these resolutions of disapproval take effect, after they've been passed and signed into law by President Trump, the Bureau of Land Management will still have the necessary environmental analysis to issue new resource management plans that are consistent with the law and the clear intent of Congress. Plans that open access where it was previously closed, respect local voices that were previously ignored and bring federal management back within its legal balance. That is how the process should work. That's how it's supposed to work. Under the law as written, it's how it does work. It's at least how it always should have worked, but didn't work under the Biden administration, like so many other things. Now, Republicans are defending the right of a free people here, the right of a free people to power their own future, to determine their own course. Democrats are still genuflecting before the altar of the Green New scam, clinging to their faith in their false hope that if only Americans grow poorer, the planet will somehow grow purer. And in that same spirit of self-righteous delusion, this week, Democrats are yet again bringing forth a measure to denounce President Trump for declaring an energy emergency. It's a gesture so unserious, it would be comical if it weren't so dangerous. At the very moment when the world is entering an energy race that will decide who commands the engines of artificial intelligence and all that go along with it, who manufactures the tools of war, and who will feed and defend their people, Democrats have instead chosen to strike a pose. They're congratulating themselves for denying the existence of the fire while standing in the smoke and holding the matches. Theirs are the politics of aesthetic virtue. Better to be cold and appear righteous than to be warm and competent. But the American people, fortunately, are not fools. They understand that we can no longer afford to pad the pockets of Democratic allies propping up unreliable industries that cannot, no matter how hard Democrats wish it were otherwise, they cannot keep the lights on, while punishing the workers and the communities that can, and will, if only we will allow it, without undue interference from the U.S. government. These resolutions to overturn the reckless Biden-era land plans are part of that larger defense. They would restore lawful management to public lands, honor the voices of those who live nearest to them and are therefore most directly affected by them, and keep faith with the law Congress enacted. Mr. President, nations that lose their memory soon lose their nerve. The same spirit that split the Rockies and bridged the Golden Gate cannot be reconciled with a bureaucracy that measures virtue by paralysis. America, in short, was not built by those who made idols of the land, but by those who worked it, and in so doing, ennobled both themselves and it. We cannot continue to bow to the Ashtoreth of climate alarmism and bow to the Moloch of eco-terrorism and pretend that that is going to work out well for America. Americans know better. Rewinding these management plans will not desecrate the environment, far from it. But they will deliver. They will deliver it from an orthodoxy that mistakes idleness for piety, reminding us that liberty, like the land itself, withers when left untouched. It's therefore with all the energy, enthusiasm that I'm capable of communicating that I invite my colleagues to do the right thing, to vote for these resolutions of disapproval, and to right the gross wrong that has been inflicted on the American people, particularly Americans in and around the states affected by these ill-designed, ill-conceived resource management plans. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
The senator from Montana.
Mr. President, today the Senate will vote to proceed to my joint resolution to congressionally disapprove and officially roll back President Biden's anti-coal rule in Montana. HJ Res 104 is supported by the entire Montana delegation. And I want to thank Congressman Downing and Congressman Zinke for leading this resolution in the House, and for Senator Sheehy for joining me in the Senate. And this resolution is supported by many Montanans, starting with the governor of Montana, Governor Greg Gianforte, the mayor of Colstrip, Montana, the Montana Coal Council, the Montana Electric Co-ops, Northwestern Energy, local counties, both of the affected coal mines, and many, many more, and I will tell you, many, many more coal miners. I want to explain quickly what we are doing here today. Today we will take the first step in overturning the Miles City Resource Management Plan amendment that prohibits any new coal leasing in eastern Montana. Let me be very clear. This resolution only overturns the anti-coal amendment that was issued by the Biden administration after the last election in the final days of their term. None of the actions taken today affect the underlying Miles City Resource Management Plan or how the BLM manages recreation, conservation, and other energy developments in the state. Future coal development will be managed under the existing resource management plan as it had for years before Biden slipped in at the last hour this amendment. Now, why is this important to Montana? The Biden amendment prohibits all new coal leasing across all of eastern Montana. Eastern Montana and Wyoming are home to the Powder River Basin. These are the largest coal reserves in the United States. Many who are watching, when you think about Montana, you think about our amazing fly fishing streams, our national parks, our beautiful mountains, our wilderness areas, the tremendous hunting and hiking opportunities we provide. But many don't know that Montana has more recoverable coal than any state in the United States. And think about this, the Biden administration prohibited new coal development in America's largest coal reserve. BLM's resource management plans are meant to be a bipartisan process, taking in feedback from people on the ground and implementing the multiple-use mission of the BLM. But sadly, the Biden administration tried to pull a fast one. They took this process, flipped it on its face, and they disregarded the voices of Montana. Well, I can tell you here this afternoon, the voices of Montana are speaking loudly with a united Montana delegation both here in Washington as well as Montanans back home in the state, and we are going to right that wrong today. We're going to give Montana a voice in the process. Overturning this partisan rule will grow Montana energy jobs and help our rural communities. In fact, according to the Montana Coal Council, coal supports nearly 900 high-paying jobs in Montana and has provided $2.7 billion in federal, state, private, and tribal royalties. And in a letter from Montana's Governor, Greg Gianforte, he states this Biden rule amounts to a loss of $4.3 billion in future revenue to the state trust land beneficiaries, which includes K through 12 public education. This is a monumental moment for the state of Montana. I'm thrilled this is being considered today on the floor of the United States Senate, and I urge my colleagues to support Montana jobs, Montana communities, reliable and low-cost energy, and to vote yes on today's motion.
The senator from Arkansas.
I ask unanimous consent that notwithstanding Rule 22, it be in order for the majority leader or his designee to make motions to proceed to H.J. Res. 104, H.J. Res. 105, and H.J. Res. 106, respectively, if the Senate companion measure has been discharged from committee, and for Senator Schiff or his designee to make a motion to discharge S.J. Res. 83.
Without objection.
I know of no further debate on the nominations.
If there's no further debate, the question is on the nomination on block. Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alstabrooks. Ms. Baldwin. Mr. Banks.
Aye.
Mr. Barrasso. Mr. Bennett. Mrs. Blackburn. Mr. Blumenthal. Ms. Blunt Rochester. Mr. Booker. Thank you. Mr. Bozeman. Mrs. Britt. Mr. Budd. Ms. Cantwell. Mrs. Capito. Mr. Cassidy. Ms. Collins. Thank you. Mr. Coons. Thanks. Mr. Cornyn. Ms. Cortez Masto. Mr. Cotton. Mr. Kramer. Mr. Crapo. Mr. Cruz, Mr. Curtis, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst, Mr. Fetterman, Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Gallego, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey,
Mr. Marshall. Mr. McConnell. Mr. McCormick. Mr. Merkley. Mrs. Moody. Mr. Moran. Mr. Moreno. Mr. Mullen, Ms. Markowski, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray. Mr. Ossoff. Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt. Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen. Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young. Senators voting in the affirmative: Banks, Cassidy, Kramer, Cruz, Daines, Hoeven, Johnson, Kennedy, Langford, Lee, Marshall, Mullen, Ricketts, Schmidt, Scott of Florida, Tillis. Senators voting in the negative: Also Brooks, Blunt Rochester, Hickenlooper, Kane, Murphy, Smith, Warnock, Warren, Whitehouse, Wyden. Mr. Wicker. Mr. Wicker, aye. Mr. Schatz, no. Mr. Lujan. Mr. Lujan, no. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mrs. Gillibrand, no. Mr. Risch. Mr. Risch, aye. Mr. Young. Mr. Young, aye. Ms. Collins, aye. Which, Mr. Tuberville, aye. Mr. Crapo, aye. Ms. Baldwin, Ms. Baldwin, no. Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Heinrich, no. Ms. Hassan, no. Mr. Blumenthal, no. Mr. Fetterman, no. Mr. Cotton, aye. Mr. Merkley, no. Mr. Barrasso, aye. Mr. Welch, no. Mrs. Britt, aye. Mr. Husted, aye. Mr. Cornyn, aye.
Do I have to do that 107 times?
Mr. Graham, aye. Mr. Van Hollen, no. Ms. Lummis, aye. Mr. Markey, no. Ms. Slotkin, no. Mr. McConnell, aye. Mr. Grassley, aye. Mrs. Moody, aye. Mrs. Shaheen, no. Mr. Kim, no. Ms. Cortez Masto, no. Mr. Moreno, aye. Mr. Rounds, aye. Ms. Ernst, aye. Mr. Gallego, no. Mr. Kelly, no. Mr. Haggerty, aye. Ms. Rosen, no. Mr. Budd, aye. Mrs. Capito, aye. Mrs. Fisher, aye. Mrs. Hyde Smith, aye. Mr. Peters, no. Mr. Bozeman, aye. Mr. King, no. Ms. Hirono, no. Mrs. Blackburn, Mrs. Blackburn, aye. Mr. Thune, aye. Ms. Cantwell, no. Mr. Shipp, no. Mr. Scott of South Carolina, aye. Mr. Bennett, no. Mr. Sanders, no. Mr. Hawley, aye. Mrs. Murray, no. Mr. Reed, no. Mr. McCormick, aye. Mr. Moran, aye. Mr. Durbin, no. Mr. Ossoff, no. Ms. Murkowski, aye. Ms. Duckworth, no. Mr. Booker, no. Mr. Padilla, no. Mr. Paul, aye. Mr. Coons, no. Ms. Klobuchar, no. Mr. Warner, no. Mr. Sullivan, aye. Mr. Schumer, no. Mr. Justice, aye.
The yeas are 51, the nays are 47. The nominations in block are confirmed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made and laid upon the table, and the President will be immediately notified of the Senate's actions. The Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to legislative session, be in a period of morning business with senators permitted to speak therein for up to 10 minutes each.
Without objection.
Mr. President,
The Democratic Leader.
I ask unanimous consent the Senate proceed to legislative session, be in a period of morning business with senators permitted to... Oh, that's Thune. He did it already. I used to do that. I move to proceed to calendar 167S2882.
The clerk will report.
Motion to proceed to calendar number 167S2882, a bill making continuing appropriations for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2026, and for other purposes.
Motion to the desk.
The clerk will report the cloture motion.
Cloture motion. We, the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, do hereby move to bring to a close the debate on the motion to proceed to calendar number 167S2882, a bill making continuing appropriations for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2026, and for other purposes, signed by 17 senators as follows.
I ask consent the reading of the names be waived.
Without objection.
I withdraw my motion to proceed.
The Senator has that right. The motion is withdrawn.
Mr. President,
The Majority Leader.
I move to proceed to calendar number 168, H.R. 5371.
The clerk will report.
Motion to proceed to calendar number 168, H.R. 5371, an act making continuing appropriations and extensions for fiscal year 2026 and for other purposes.
I send a cloture motion to the desk.
The clerk will report the cloture motion.
Cloture motion. We, the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, do hereby move to bring to a close debate on the motion to proceed to calendar number 168, H.R. 5371, an act making continuing appropriations and extensions for fiscal year 2026 and for other purposes, signed by 17 senators as follows.
I ask consent the reading of the names be waived,
Without objection.
and I move to proceed to H.J. Res. 104.
The question is on the motion.
I ask for the ayes and nays.
Is there a sufficient second? There is. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks, Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Banks. Sir. Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett. Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman. Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt, thank you. Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn, Ms. Cortez Masto, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Curtis, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst, Mr. Fetterman, Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Gallego, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoban, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice.
Did you get my no vote? Great, thank you.
Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Marino, Mr. Mullen, Ms. Murkowski, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff,
Los Yankees.
Mr. Schmidt,
All about
Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida,
come back. We're going to come back tonight.
Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith,
Yes, I was happy. Very happy.
Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis,
Arkansas, we got another
Mr.
call.
Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young. Senators voting in the affirmative: Banks, Barrasso, Blackburn, Bozeman, Britt, Budd, Capito, Cornyn, Cotton, Crapo, Deans, Fisher, Grassley, Haggerty, Hawley, Hoven, Husted, Hyde-Smith, Johnson, Justice, Kennedy, Langford, Lee, Lummis, Marshall, McConnell, McCormick, Moody, Moran, Marino, Mullen, Murkowski, Paul, Risch, Rounds, Schmidt, Scott of South Carolina, Wicker, and Young. Senators voting in the negative: Alsobrooks, Baldwin, Bennett, Blumenthal, Blunt-Rochester, Booker, Cantwell, Coons, Cortez Masto, Duckworth, Durbin, Fetterman, Gallego, Gillibrand, Hassan, Heinrich, Hirono, Kane, Kelly, Kim, King, Klobuchar, Lujan, Murray, Ossoff, Padilla, Peters, Reed, Rosen, Sanders, Schatz, Schiff, Shaheen, Slotkin, Smith, Warner, Warren, Welch, and Wyden. Ms. Ernst, aye. Mr. Schumer, no. Mr. Kramer, aye. Mr. Hickenlooper, no. Mr. Scott of Florida, aye. Mr. Tuberville, aye. Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Van Hollen, no. Mr. Markey, no. Mr. Thune, aye. Ms. Collins, aye. Mr. Merkley, no. Mr. Murphy, no. Mr. Sullivan, aye.